Welcome, everybody, to the very first episode of the Debrief. I'm your host, Tom, from the Reckless Speculation Podcast. And I got this crazy idea with doing the podcast with all these other guys down in Tennessee that we talk about national sports. We talk about their fandom and whatnot. But I felt like the Detroit sports scene right now is just so hot with the Lions doing what they're doing. The Tigers that just came off their incredible run, getting to the ALDS, unfortunately not making it through. And, there's lots of high hopes with the Red Wings, and who knows what the Pistons are going to do. So I thought, what a better time to get involved, throw myself out there, do a Detroit-themed sports podcast. But we're also going to mix in a little bit of other fun as well. We're going to talk about some of the hot spots in the city around the suburbs and downtown, some of the spots where you might want to go before or after a game, some of the best food to eat in the city. So if you're coming down for a game or whatever, coming from out of town, you want to check that out. So look forward to that. I am recording this very first episode. So look forward to live broadcasts from here on out. I just wanted to get this one under my belt. But with that being said, let's move to the big dog of the week. We've got the best matchup in the NFL. Yes, the Detroit Lions going to Minnesota this weekend to play the Minnesota Vikings, who are 5-0 in the NFC North. Detroit's 4-1. This should be a battle of the ages. Not really sure why it didn't get flexed. Feel like that game should have been moved to Sunday night. But it's not. It's a 1:00 kick, and so we don't have to wait all day Sunday to get this thing going. So first glance, Minnesota's been a surprise. I think if you ask anybody, they would tell you the same thing. They didn't expect them to be 5-0 at this point. Sam Darnold has looked incredible. He's looked like the draft pick the Jets thought that they were going to get a few years back. But, O'Connell, the coach, he seems to be the quarterback whisperer. So he's been able to work wonders with them. And I guess when you have Justin Jefferson at your disposal, that can make anybody look good. So, but I think the one thing that Minnesota has, that kind of separates them is their defense. Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator, he's fantastic. He's one of those examples of hell of a coordinator, couldn't figure it out as a head coach. So he's in Minnesota. He's been in Minnesota. This is now, I believe, his third season, and he's got those guys going, especially the front defense. So I think that's a big part as to why they're sitting at 5-0. One of two undefeateds remaining in the NFL. Of course, the other being Kansas City Chiefs. But anyways, so Detroit comes in 4-1, riding a high back-to-back 40-plus point games against Seattle Monday night 3 weeks ago. And then obviously the curb stomping of the Cowboys last week, 47-9. Jared Goff is he's been fantastic. Back-to-back perfect rating, QBR ratings. He's finding ways. When you have that offensive line protecting you, giving you the opportunity to, sit back there and kind of, pick your poison, so to speak, he's making it work. And obviously the run game led by David Montgomery, who just the ground and pound, and then you mix it up with Gibbs, which definitely makes them dangerous, one of the better running teams, which it seems that the teams that can run are winning this year. So, but the big loss, as you all know, Aiden Hutchinson, he's done for the year. So they're going to kind of next man up mentality. They went and got a guy named Isaiah Thomas off the Bengals practice squad. Fitting, you bring in Isaiah Thomas into Detroit. So we'll see how that goes. I don't believe he'll be playing this week. So look for him to get in the lineup sometime in the next week or so. But they're going to move. James Houston's going to get an opportunity to see some action. And let's face it, he's kind of been somewhat of a disappointment. He riding the high of his 2022 rookie campaign. I think he had 7 or 8 sacks in a short game experience. So you thought going into the next season he was going to really light it up with Aiden being on the other side, but unfortunately he gets a knee injury early on in 2023. So we're going to see how it's going to work out for him. And so we're going to get into this thing. I'm going to break down the matchups between the two teams. So like I said, Minnesota, the cream of the crop in the NFC North, they're 5-0. Detroit's 4-1. So we're going to kind of break it down position by position. And we're going to start where it all matters, quarterback position. Obviously, Jared Goff here, like I said a minute ago, back-to-back perfect QBR rating weeks. And I thought I heard a snippet the other day. So that's the first time that's been done in NFL history. It's incredible to see where he's come, since been left off the trash heap in LA. Obviously gets us to the NFC Championship last year, and he has just picked up right where he left off. So he's 71% completion percentage. He's thrown for over 1,300 yards. His touchdowns are down a little bit, 8. And I kind of look at the fact that they're just running the hell out of the ball. I look at that, and it's like Jared doesn't have to really rely on his arm a whole lot to make plays and to be successful when you have that running game. So, and he's got four interceptions. And then on the flip side, you look at Sam Darnold. Like I was saying, it's been incredible what he's been able to do. He was kind of, thrown away in everywhere he's been. He started in the Jets, then he went to Carolina, and Carolina benched him for Baker Mayfield, and then he moves on. He goes to San Francisco. And I think he really started to learn the quarterback position a little bit playing in San Francisco. So then he comes and he signs a 1-year deal with Minnesota. And O'Connell, like I was saying earlier, he's got a knack. He's got an offense that he runs really well, and it's kind of lean for quarterbacks. So it's not a surprise when you look at those factors that he is having some success. Although he was bruised up a little bit, he had a little knee ding a couple weeks ago, right before their bye week. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes into play. They were on the bye last week, gave him time to heal. So looking at his stats, he's about 64% completion percentage with, ironically, 1,111 yards passing. He does have 11 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. He's got a 103.4 QBR, and Jared Goff was a 105. So looking at those aspects, how many games has Sam Darnold been in that you can say have been real pressure cookers, like big time games in his career? I think this is his 4th or 5th year in the NFL, but how many games has he been in that it's been, the primary game? It's been the main focus. I'm not sure if he has. And then you look at Jared Goff. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's been to NFC Championship games. He's won playoff games. Last year, I mean, he was up against it, and he succeeded at every stop. So I think when you look at it in that regard, this is kind of just another game for Jared Goff. On the flip side, this is probably the biggest game in Sam Darnold's career. So how is he going to prepare? Coming into the game, it's just a little bit bigger. And for that very reason, the fact that Jared Goff has that experience, has that big game experience, I'm going to lean Jared Goff in this situation. Although I with the weapons that Darnold has at his disposal, it wouldn't surprise me if he puts up big numbers on Sunday, but we'll see. I do expect big production out of Jared Goff. They're clicking. Ben Johnson has got that playbook wide open. So we'll see. Advantage in the quarterback matchup goes to Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions. Running back position. It's been a fun season thus far with David Montgomery winning not one, but two angry run scepters from Kyle Brandt in Good Morning Football. He should have won last week. They gave it to Tyler Algier, but he's a bulldog. But man, he has earned the contract he currently has, and he just got extended for another 2 years. So he'll be here through the 2027 season. I can't think of another running back that is more deserving than that. All he does is produce. He has no quit. He's always moving his legs. He's got 351 yards on 75 carries. He's got 6 touchdowns on this season. And I do believe, like I said, this is a contributing factor as to why Jared Goff's touchdown numbers are a little bit lower, because they get in that red zone, and they proved it last week in Dallas. They got in that red zone. They just pounded the ball, gave it to David Montgomery, and he made it happen. And then when he sits out, you got the speed and the versatility and the quick feet of Jahmyr Gibbs, 348 yards on 66 carries and 3 touchdowns. So there's really not much of a drop off. You can't think of too many other teams in the NFL that have that luxury. When your number one back goes to the sideline, you bring in another guy who's sitting 3 yards behind and 3 touchdowns behind your number one guy. So that's special. That's special, and to have that in this team, I think it's the reason why they're seeing so much success, and everything begins in those trenches. So that's why they're sitting at 4-1. That's why their offense is really clicking. It's because of that running back game that has just been so powerful, we'll say, against these other teams. They really don't know how to handle it. So looking at that, and then the Vikings running back situation is a little different. Aaron Jones is supposed to play this week. He's coming off a hamstring. He's missed the game before the bye week. He got hurt in the London game against the Jets, tweaked the hamstring pregame supposedly. So, but he's supposed to be playing. Now his numbers are 71 carries, 350 yards, and only a touchdown. But like I said, he's missed a game. So, and we're not really sure where his health is. They did go and pick up Akers from Houston, traded for him. Akers was in Minnesota last year, and he was pretty successful for them. So he's going to come in. He knows the offense, and he's another versatile back that he can catch the ball out of the backfield. And the fact that he does know the offense, will be able to plug him in. So their second back is Ty Chandler. He's got 42 carries, 147 yards. So, looking at that aspect, I think the key to this game, and we'll get into the keys a little bit later, but the keys to this game really are going to be the run game. Everything's going to be set with that run game. And just knowing the track record that the Lions have had this year and even last year, you look back to last season. I mean, it all started with that run game. It all started with that offensive line. I got to give the advantage again to the Lions in that run game with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. I just think they're too dangerous of weapons that you can plug and play anywhere. And you take one out, you put the other one in, and it's dangerous behind that offensive line. It's definitely something that will key the Lions if they do pull out this victory. So again, the matchups in the running back position, I'm going to go with the Lions in this one. Now this one here, this is the meat and potatoes. This is the wide receiver position. We all know Jameson Williams. He's the big game downfield threat, and we all know what Amon-Ra St. Brown brings to the table. He's the short guy. You need that 5 yards. He's the one to get you. He can run the routes. He's phenomenal. And then you've got Tim Patrick, who they picked up off waivers from the Broncos, who has been a huge surprise thus far this season. He's a big receiver. He's almost tight end size. So last week, Jared Goff went to him on a 3rd and long. He went 45 yards downfield and he got it. He's got some big hands. So in the short time that he's been with the team, he's been very successful. So it's exciting to see where he's going to be going as he progresses in the offense. But the big story coming into this season was, is this the year we're going to see Jameson Williams show up? And he has definitely showed up. He's the deep threat. And I think a lot of people question whether or not Jared Goff was going to be able to get him the ball. He's going to outrun every defender. But yeah, Jared Goff has been able to get the ball in the receiver's hands. And it's been a lot of success this year. So Amon-Ra's numbers have been slightly lower than what we're used to. But if you asked him, does he feel any animosity towards that? He'll tell you no. I mean, this is a very tight unit, and as long as the team is succeeding, I think he feels, and he even said as much in his podcast the other day that, hey man, we're winning. If I only get 3 catches and we win, I'm good with that. So him just being on the field makes everybody else around him better. So. But then on the other side, you've got Justin Jefferson, who is the best wide receiver in the NFL, bar none. When he's out there, you have to watch. He'll catch the short, the intermediate, and the long. He's fast, and there aren't many corners that can cover him. This is the thing that scares me. In the San Francisco game, Darnold throws to him 97 yards. Touchdown pass. He catches it at like the 45 and he's gone. So he can take it to the house at any moment, at any time. So he is a threat that you always have to pay attention to. So, but with that being said, it's kind of a drop off. They have Jordan Addison as their number 2. His numbers have been down this year. He's only got 9 catches, 143 yards, and a touchdown. I do believe he's been dealing with some injuries. Justin Jefferson is leading the team with 26 catches, 450 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So, and then you have Jalen Naylor with an old Michigan State Spartan who's coming in. He's the number 3. He's got 8 for 137. So it's kind of thin. It's kind of spread thin at receiver with Minnesota after you get past JJ. So this is a tough one. You have to almost say a push light Detroit in this situation because Detroit has a little bit more dynamic weapons. They have more playmakers per se. So slight edge to the Lions at receiver position. And I do think having Tim Patrick there, the big question was who's going to be this year's Josh Reynolds. I do believe he is it. And he might be better than Josh Reynolds as he progresses through this offense. I think he's going to be a little bit better than Josh Reynolds. He's going to give you a little bit more downfield potential. So we'll see. It's going to be exciting. But again, Justin Jefferson on the field, you have to be careful at all causes. So, but slight edge to the Lions at the receiver position on that one. Very slight, very slight. It's tough. It's tough. I do have JJ on my fantasy team. And so it's one of those double-edged swords. I want him to score, but I don't want him to score. So, and tight end position, moving on. This is unfortunate. We're most likely not going to see Hockenson in this game. If you guys remember last year, Kirby Joseph, we played him last year. Low tackle, tears his ACL. Unfortunate injury. So he's still been battling back from that. So I don't believe he's going to play, although he was practicing this week and he's able to play. So there is a slight chance he might, which if he does, that'll be great. He played in his former team. He did make some comments after he was traded that kind of he ate crow and bit him in the ass on that one. But nonetheless, having him on the field would be good for Minnesota. It would be good for Detroit. You definitely want them to be healthy and playing their best players. And my guy right here, Sam Laporta, it's been a down year. I mean, obviously, his rookie season was fantastic. Coming into this year, he was, I believe, the number 3 or number 4 tight end. That's not to say he hasn't been a factor in this offense. And if you really break it down, his lack of receptions really is a testament to his blocking ability as a tight end. He has really become one of the NFL's premier blocking tight ends. And in this offense, that's key, to have a tight end that can block downfield along with receivers that block. So I think, again, it all comes down to that running back position, the success they're having on the ground. And that's why we're really not seeing a lot of big numbers so far from Sam Laporta. Maybe that's going to change last week with the triple option downfield touchdown that went for 43 yards. The man's got great hands. He can run routes as good, if not as better than anybody in the NFL is at the tight end position. So I have no fear that he's going to put up numbers. And yes, he is on my fantasy team as well. But so I've been a little bit disappointed. But looking at the overall scope of things, he's a hell of a tight end still. He may not have all the catches. I'm looking now. He's got 13 catches for just under 200 yards and a touchdown, which he got that last week. I'm not worried about him because he's making things happen in the offense still. He's playing every game. Him and Brock Wright kind of switch off, which Brock Wright, he's a fully capable tight end. So the tight end that Minnesota is going to start with that we know is Johnny Munt. He's got 9 catches, 75 yards. They don't really have that dynamic weapon at that position, kind of the safety valve. I like to consider tight ends the safety valve. And if you go back last week to see Sam Laporta's touchdown, he blocked. It's a timing thing. He stood back behind the line of scrimmage, blocked, and then broke free. And I think having that ability, having that player that can block and then knows where to go, knows the holes to get, kind of a zone block breaker, we'll say, that's an advantage when you have that. And Minnesota really doesn't have that. If they did, watch out. And if Hawkinson's fully healthy, that's your safety valve. That's Darnold's safety blanket. So it seems a bit redundant here, but I'm going with the Lions with the overall advantage at tight end position in the matchup. It just Sam Laporta and Brock Wright, they can be explosive, and they're both great blocking running or tight ends. So the advantage is clear right now. Unless Hawkinson comes back fully healthy, it's the Lions at tight end. We're really not going to get too in depth with the O-line because we all know that the Lions offensive line is by and large the number 1 offensive line in the NFL. One caveat, Kevin Zeitler may not play. Apparently he got banged up last week. Had no idea. Just heard that Dan Campbell's presser today. He said that if he had to guess, he wouldn't be playing. But, they've got some depth there at that position. And as long as you have Panay and you have Frank and you have Taylor Decker there on the left, I feel pretty confident there. They've only given up 9 sacks through 6 games. And on the flip side, Minnesota's allowed 14 through 5. So we're going to see. Again, and we're going to get into it here in a second, not having Aiden Hutchinson could play a key role here. Onto the defense. So clearly the advantage in that one would be the Lions. That would be the biggest rhetorical of the century. So Lions have that advantage. Again, so far it's a clean sweep with the Lions with the overall matchups. Going to the defense, the Lions, 15 sacks as a team, 7 interceptions, 5 forced fumbles, and 3 recovered fumbles. Now the 15 sacks, that's a nice number, but you just removed half of those from the line in Aiden Hutchinson, who had 7.5 sacks on the season, leading the NFL. Clearly the clear-cut favorite for Defensive Player of the Year so far in the NFL. That's a huge piece when you lose that. But one thing that gave me hope, and some will say that Dallas already threw in the bag, they threw in the towel, they didn't give two shits about playing any more of that game. The defense really showed up. Aaron Glenn threw a lot more mismatches, ran a lot of stunts, and blitzed a lot more than he's normally used to, and got the linebackers involved at the line of scrimmage. And I really like that. I think when you overload the line, and they really gave that bunch formation on defense, and so Dak was really wondering, are they going to fall back in the coverage? Are they coming? And more often than not, they were coming for him. So I look for a lot more looks in that regard. Also, Brian Branch, who is a little banged up, but you're not going to take him off the field. Came off the game of his career thus far. 2 picks, a peanut Tillman punch, fumble, 6 tackles. He was all over the field, and it makes you wonder, what in God's green earth were 31 other teams thinking when they let him get to the second round last year in the draft? Just the luck that we as Lions fans were able to watch him play every week, that he fell into our arms. I'm thankful for that. And he just proved why he is on his way to being one of the best safeties in the NFL. So I'm looking for him to play up on the line of scrimmage. You saw him get in the backfield a little bit last week, and I think that's going to be key, getting him a little bit more, acting like maybe as a linebacker a little bit more than usual. So they're going to want to overload that line with the linebackers, and I think you're going to see that with Brian Branch. I think, again, another week, he's going to be the key here. And then you look at Minnesota, they got 20 team sacks, 11 picks, 3 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries. The secondary is the big problem in Minnesota. They're ranked 30th in the NFL. But you have a defensive front that gets to the quarterback. And I think that can kind of hide any discrepancies that your secondary might have. When you can get to the quarterback and you can force the quarterback to make mistakes, it kind of takes pressure off that secondary. And I think that's the situation that we see with Minnesota as to why they've been so successful. So this week, though, I mean, per my previous position matchups, I have a feeling there could be some exposing of that secondary with the Vikings. And Ben Johnson is sitting back and seeing that, they're the 30th ranked offense. We've got this run game. Play action is massive. Yeah, I think we're going deep. So I think that bodes for a lot of 15, 20 plus yard plays downfield in this game. So, but the fact that Aiden Hutchins is not on the field is huge. Aleem McNeil gets an extension this week, well deserved. The guy's a beast in the middle. He's going to be a factor, but you don't have that pressure on that right side, and it's going to take the whole team stepping up to really compensate for that huge loss. I'm not sure how effective they're going to be. It's going to be a lot of pressure on Detroit's secondary. Kirby Joseph is going to have to be real heavy on the over-the-top protection, especially if JJ's lined up against Terry and Arnold. As we all know, he's very handsy. He's leading the NFL in DPIs. So that's going to be the tough situation. He's going to have to have a lot of safety help over the top, or it could be a long day for that Lions secondary. But I'm going to give that overall matchup to the Vikings because they have that defensive front is pretty scary, and Brian Flores, and one thing I haven't mentioned yet, this is a battle of the minds. This is a battle of the best offensive coordinator in Ben Johnson versus the best defensive coordinator in Brian Flores. And these guys are just foaming at the mouth to get playing on 1 o'clock on Sunday, because this is the game that they've been waiting for. These matchups they've been waiting for. So everything I'm saying here it could be thrown out the window when you're dealing with just the smart intellect of these coordinators that are just, they're far and beyond better than anyone else in the NFL. So, but Flores has got that defense going real well. I'm giving the edge to them in that regard. So, the kicking, really, I mean, you got Josh Bates, who's 9 of 9, 16 to 17 in extra points, and then you've got the rookie Will Reichert from, I believe he's from Roll Tide, Alabama. And his numbers are almost identical. He's 9 of 9 and 16 to 16 extra points. So really, I mean, that's a push. Will the kicking game come into play? It's indoors. I think that's important. It could come into play at the end of potential at the end of the game, but so we'll see. Detroit fortunately hasn't had to rely on Jake Bates to make a lot of plays, although he got, I believe, 5 field goals last week, so he was active last week, which is good. It was a big game. It was in Dallas, so it was, high pressure kicks, which we haven't seen him have to do this year, fortunately, with the offense being so successful. So I think you can build on what he was able to do last week and hope that gave him the confidence moving on. So those are my matchups. When you look at it that way, it's heavy Lions, and it's all that offense. It's the number 1 rated offense in the NFL, and the last 2 weeks they've done nothing but prove why. Back-to-back 40-plus point games, and I kind of feel like we're going to see a high-score game this week again. So we're going to talk about the keys to a Detroit Lion victory. And again, like I said at the beginning here, it all starts with the trenches. It's the offensive line. When you're going up against a defensive line of the magnitude that the Vikings have, you got to have those big boys up front and blocking and making holes. If I had my soundboard, I'd be making holes. The clip that I have, but and I fully expect the Lions to be able to do that. And that running game really kind of the key factor into how the rest of that offense is going to, mesh out. If they're successful and the ground game, that opens up your downfield abilities with play action, because you're gonna have to play 8 in the box, which kind of opens up the middle of the field. And who does that favor? That's Amon-Ra and Laporta all day long. So no question, Ben's going to have them thinking what's the play here. And from what we saw last week, that offense is anyone's guess. So and that's what you want coming into a huge matchup like we're going to see this week. And again, pound the rock. Detroit, it lives and dies in the run game, and keep at it and keep pounding it. It's worked. It's worked. And then you mix in, like I was saying, you can mix in that over the top factor with Jameson Williams when he's running the seam or a post route. You never know. So I think that loosens up that defense a little bit. So the key really to this Lions win is the run game. If they can muster up each David and Jameer each 60, 70 apiece, I think that bodes well for the Lions in this game. I think big plays, like I was alluding to earlier, I think we're going to see a lot of big plays, not just with the Lions. I think you're going to see big plays with the Vikings and Darnold going deep to Justin Jefferson. I mean, he's proven whether he's covered. I can recall a game in Buffalo last year. He was triple covered. He went up with one hand and came down with it. Unbelievable catch. The guy's a freak of nature. So it doesn't matter. He's similar to how Calvin Johnson was. He just didn't matter. You just put it up, he's going to go get it. So that gives you those big play, capabilities. And with Detroit hitting on the ground game, being able to be successful running the ball, I think that opens up downfield. And what we saw in Tim Patrick last week is ability to run a post route and go and get the ball, even though he was blanketed. And how that wasn't a pass interference, I don't know, but he came down with the catch nonetheless. But I think that makes Flores have to really focus even more on the fact that they don't have just one big playmaker. They got two guys that can go downfield and get it. So I do think we're going to see a lot of big plays, yardage abound on both sides of the token here. But clearly, I think Detroit, with the fact that they have a little bit better receiver room, it kind of leans that way. So big plays is a key. And I think this is the game where you see 87 really shine. Like I mentioned, you're going to have a lot of guys playing up. 8 guys in the box. You're going to bring safeties up to kind of defend against that run game. You're going to get Sam Laporta open a lot. And with that 30th ranked secondary, I think you're going to see him going downfield a lot. He can get the catch. Like I said earlier, he's a great route runner. This is the game. This is the game that I think everyone's going to be like, okay, yeah, that's the Sam Laporta I remember from last year. And again, like I mentioned earlier, just because his numbers are down doesn't mean he hasn't been a key factor in this offense. He has been a huge factor in that running game, and that is equal as his receptions and touchdowns. So, but I think this is the week. I hope this is the week that he puts up big fantasy numbers, and I think he's going to. I think it's ripe for the taking. The fact that middle of the field, that kind of in between intermediate range, second level, is going to be open for him to get some yardage. So, all right, folks, time for my prediction. Like I said, this is going to be an unbelievable game. 2 juggernauts going at it. High scoring. I believe the over-under is 55, if I'm not mistaken. You might be wise to take that. And the Lions, surprisingly enough, are a 1.5 underdog. Last week, prior to the Hutchinson injury, they were a 1.5 favorite. As soon as the injury hit, Vegas flipped it to a 1.5 underdog. So curious. I thought maybe that thing would get down to a push at the time of kickoff. It still could. But so with that being said, I'm going to say the Lions 34, Vikings 27 in a shootout. Who's going to be able to match the offense? If Detroit jumps out early, can Minnesota match score for score? I don't think they can. And if you go back to the London game against the Jets, if not for an Aaron Rodgers interception return for a touchdown, which I'm not really sure what he was thinking. He must have been on his ashwagandha high or something there in London. But if not for that play in the fourth quarter, the Vikings lose that game. So the Jets seem to, bag up their offense pretty good. So I don't think Minnesota can match score for score with the Lions. So for that reason, I really think Detroit comes out. They've proven when it matters more, they step up and they play. Again, give me the Lions 34-27 in a thriller in Minneapolis. Can't wait for that game. I wish they were getting ready to kick off now. But so okay, we're going to switch gears here, and we're going to talk about the disappointment team this year, the Michigan Wolverines. They're heading into Champaign. They're going to play Illinois, who's, you know what? They've played pretty good this year. They're ranked number 22. The Wolverines are 24. Michigan's a 1-point favorite in this game, which kind of surprises me. Over under a 44.5. And I think the big question mark coming into this game for Michigan is this. What's Jack Tuttle going to bring to the table? They put him in after an abysmal performance by Alex Orji in Washington. And he drove down, he made 2 drives, really seemed like he had a grasp on that offense. And then he hit a wall. And he didn't, they really couldn't do a whole lot in the second half, which Washington took advantage of, and they ended up winning 27-17. So you get 2 weeks working with the ones, preparing for this game. How big of a factor is that? I think the key for Tuttle is this. He's got to go downfield. It seems like him, along with Davis Warren and Alex Orji, it was Colson Loveland or nothing. They didn't throw the ball much to the receivers. You got to throw the ball downfield. You got to get the ball to the receivers. If you don't do that, you become predictable. And I think that's been Michigan's biggest problem. They're very predictable offensively. Khalil Mullins has been, I think to the average Michigan fan, not much of a surprise, because he showed flashes last year. When they put him in, he got yardage. He produced. So he's done really well. I think he's got 91 carries, 589 yards. He's got 6 touchdowns. Donovan Edwards, 353 on the ground, 3 touchdowns. He's kind of the X factor. Is he going to show up? Because if he shows up, they're going to win. If he doesn't, it could be a tough day for Michigan. But Illinois' offense, Luke Altmaier's got over 1,400 yards passing, 14 touchdowns to 1 interception, throwing shade under 70% completion. Caden Fagan, 67 carries, 300 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns. He's averaging a little over 4 yards a carry. Then you got Pat Bryant. He's got 27 receptions, 452 yards, seven touchdowns. He's averaging a little over 16.5 yards per catch. That's a pretty good offense. So really the key here, you're going to have some big-time front defensive action from the big boys up there. Kenny Grant and Mason Graham, they're really going to have to put pressure on Altmaier. And, you got Will Johnson back there. So I think, the advantage in that situation will go to Michigan. I do think they show up to play. I think that loss in Washington really stung them. And Wink Martindale, we know his track record coming from the NFL. And the bottom line is, Michigan's been running that defense from back in the Mike McDonald days from Jesse Minter. They've been running that same defense. So I think he's going to have him going. And one thing Wink likes to do, he likes to blitz. So he's going to put pressure on that quarterback. So I'm looking for a big bounce back day for Michigan. I'm going to go 27-24. Kick late in the fourth quarter. Michigan's kicking game is really good. So I think they have that advantage. But give me Michigan here, 27-24. And it's going to be a close game. It'll be a close game. Back and forth, but I think ultimately Michigan comes to play, and they're prepared. And Tuttle, comes out with maybe 150 to 180, 2 touchdowns. And so we'll see. It's kind of been lackluster this year, but you know what? They won a natty last year, so I can't be too disappointed. So we're going to move on to the pick portion of the show here. Not a whole lot of games collegiately on the docket this year, other than, the Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, Texas. Those are huge. Those are huge games that I'm definitely looking forward to. So I want to I'll start from the bottom up. Iowa coming to East Lansing to face the Spartans. Who are the Spartans? It's been so up and down. There was a lot of hope coming into this season, and it just hasn't panned out. Give me Iowa in this game. Their defense, on par. They're really good. I'm just going to do straight up picks. I'm not going to focus on the point spread. I just put it there so you could see what the point spreads were. If I'm taking point spreads, I probably would take Michigan State with the points, but I think Iowa's still going to win. Again, I took Michigan in this one. They're favored. It's a 3.5 point favorite. So I think they come out on top. But per my score prediction, Illinois would cover in that one. But we're just picking pick'ems here, so it's Michigan on that one. Indiana 6-0. It's been one hell of a run so far for the Hoosiers. At home against Nebraska, Pat Mahomes 2.0. I think the schools maybe have figured him out. Indiana's got a really good defense. Give me the Hoosiers here. I think they're going to keep riding the wave. 6.5 seems right. I think that being a home game, that's going to give them a little more kick. And so give me Indiana in this one. Miami at Louisville. Miami's coming in ranked 5. Louisville, they're always tricky every year. They always get that one home win where the big dog comes to town and then they take care of them. I think this is that week. I think Louisville comes in, or Miami comes into Louisville. I think Louisville will come out on top on that one for sure in this game. So, and pardon me, that's supposed to be +5 because Miami's a 5-point favorite. That's my bad here. Georgia, Texas. This is a huge game. I think this is going to determine how big, how good Texas really is. I think there's still a little bit of a question mark. They came here to Ann Arbor and absolutely boat raced the Wolverines. Not going to say that's such a big win, especially after them losing to Washington, but we're going to see. Quinn Ewers is going to be starter again. Georgia, it hasn't been a normal Georgia team that we're used to seeing. But I like the dogs. Give me Georgia in this game. I think they go down. They know how to win big games. Georgia is going to come out on top in this one. And the rematch that Alabama has been waiting for 2 years, when Vols Nation carried the goalpost out to the Tennessee River and let it fly. That was a huge win. Hendon Hooker was a quarterback at the time, and that was a fun game to watch. Talk about no defense, man. So there's some question marks on both sides here. Alabama obviously loses to Vanderbilt 2 weeks ago. Looked very ho-hum last week. Milroe he looks like the Milroe we saw in the Rose Bowl last year. He's got that dynamic 17-year-old Ryan Williams receiver. Just throw the ball up, man. Go let him go get it. They'll be successful, but they haven't seemed to figure it out. Saw a thing that once Saban left last year, like 26 recruits left. So, the cabinet's never bare in Tuscaloosa, but Kalen DeBoer had his work cut out for him. I don't have any doubt in my mind that he'll be successful there, but it's been a little bit of a rough ride to start. They've only lost that one game, but that was not a good game to lose. So, and then Tennessee, losing a couple weeks ago, and their offense it seems like it's kind of sputtered with Nico, the freshman, it's behind center there. What are they? Who are they? That's been a big question mark. And Florida, gave them everything that they could handle last week. So, and we all know Florida's not a very good team. So, they came on, Tennessee came on late with the win. So, man, this is a toss-up. This is a toss-up game. And I know a good buddy, Robbie, down in Chattanooga is going to be there. He's probably in Knoxville partying right now. God, I hope he's safe. But I'm going to go Roll Tide. Good buddy Barry James would be happy with me. Sorry, Robbie. I just think I trust Alabama's offense a little bit more than Tennessee's. And obviously they got a chip on their shoulder from what happened a couple years ago, and they're going to defend that. So Give me Roll Tide over Tennessee. I hate to say it, but yeah, I think it comes down to just a little bit better offense. Close game. Give me Alabama. And now we're going to move on to the NFL portion here. Like I said earlier, Lions 34-27 over Minnesota. The Battle of Ohio. Man, the Browns have been a huge disappointment. Feel bad for my dad. There was a lot of high hopes coming into this season. You know, defensively last year, they were one of the top in the NFL, and they just haven't been able to put it together. But Cincinnati, man, they're kind of on the cusp of what are they going to do? Are they going to make a run, or are they just going to falter? If they falter, maybe that Trey Hendrickson falls to the Lions. But I do like the way that Burrow and Chase in that offense has executed the past couple of weeks. Give me Cincinnati in this game. Do you really want to get up early and watch football at 9:30 for this game? Patriots, Jags in London. Man, this is a snooze fest. Although I don't think it could be any worse than what we saw Thursday night between the Broncos and the Saints. Man, that was a horrible game. This one could be as horrible, but this is a game where you have two struggling offenses. You have a fairly good defense in New England, but I think Jacksonville figures it out. Peterson is definitely on his way out as a head coach. Ahmad Khan might leave him in London, might not let him get him on the team plane coming back if he doesn't win, but I think he pulls out a win. I think Goldilocks will come through and get that win. Gabe Davis, veteran receiver, he's going to see a lot of action. So give me Jacksonville here. Tennessee at Buffalo. I think that 8.5 number is low. Tennessee is terrible. They are terrible. Sorry, Brandon. Sorry, Robbie. They are not a good football team. I think you guys would agree with me on that one. I think Buffalo's turned the corner. They're ready to make a move. This game's going to be an absolute blowout in Buffalo. They're going to be breaking tables with the Texans. I can see this being 15, maybe 2 touchdowns. So give me Buffalo here. If not for the Lions, Vikings, this game here would probably be the game of the week. Texans, Packers. This is going to be a big game. CJ Stroud, he's been a hell of a quarterback so far. Jordan Love, a little inconsistent this year. You know, I'll give him. He got injured, hurt the knee, but he come back. This game's in Lambeau. I see high scoring this game. Give me the Texans to go in and beat Green Bay. Man, I hope that is the case because that will stretch a little bit more distance between us and Green Bay if we can come out with a win. So give me the Texans here. Philadelphia going to the Giants. The return of Saquon Barkley to New York. The Eagles are probably the most overrated team in the NFL, in my estimation. Jalen Hurts, I think the NFL's figured him out. He just doesn't look like he did 2 years ago. You have Saquon Barkley. You have lots of weapons. They just haven't been able to put it together. How big was Jason Kelce retiring? He seemed to be kind of the glue to hold everything together. But I do think that Philadelphia will go in there and win. This number is kind of small. I think they give it that because, you know, the Giants are going to be amped up for Saquon coming back. But, you know, I think Philly's got a little more depth. A.J. Brown, he seems to be healthy now. I think he comes out with a big game. Give me the Eagles. Seahawks going to Atlanta. Boy, the Seahawks have kind of faltered in since the Lions game. They've lost 2 straight. Actually, they've lost 3 straight coming into this game. Atlanta's riding a high. Kirk Cousins, man, he's really got them playing really good football. You got Bijan Robinson, who's proven to be one of the better backs in the NFL. You got Algier, who I mentioned, won the angry runs of the week. I think this offense is really, really strong. Geno's been rough outside of Kenny Walker. It's been tough, even though you've got DK Metcalf and you got Jackson Smith and Jigba. Their offensive line is like Swiss cheese, and I think that's been their Achilles heel. So I think Atlanta comes out big in this game. Home crowd going to show up. Atlanta and Tampa Bay are battling for best in that NFC South. So I think Atlanta comes out on top. Moving on to the Dolphins at the Colts. Man, have the Dolphins faltered since Tua went down. They can't figure out the quarterback position. And the Colts, they've played good football, and they're choosing to go back with Anthony Richardson, which I think is a huge, huge mistake. I think the fan base would agree that Joe Flacco is the better option. But they did invest all that draft capital in him. He was a first-round pick last year, and they got to play him. They got to see what they have. So this is an opportunity to see what they have in him against a really, really bad Miami Dolphin football team. So I think the Colts come out on top in this one. Carolina going to the Commanders. Jaden Daniels, I mean, not only is he's probably the rookie of the year, he's in contention with the MVP. What he's been able to do is nothing short of a miracle. He has just come in, and he looks like he's a 5-year veteran in the NFL. He looks so comfortable back there, making plays with his legs, and he's got a cannon of an arm. He's got Terry McLaurin, the deep threat, and they have played really good football. I think the Commanders are the best team in the NFC East. You know, and we're going to see moving forward, but I think they're definitely going to come out. 9.5. I mean, yeah, I think they can cover that. That's a bit high of a number in the NFL, but it is the Carolina Panthers, so I probably would take the Commanders with the points in this one. The Las Vegas Raiders going to SoFi, which will be a home game for the Raiders. There'll be more Raiders fans in attendance for this game. But the Raiders are terrible. And I'm hoping that the Raiders lose this game, and that gives the Lions more of an opportunity for the Vegas to say, you know what, we'll take a couple picks for Max Crosby. But the Rams are going to come out on top. I'm not sure if they would cover in this game, but I do think the Rams win. Chiefs 49ers rematch of the Super Bowl. 49ers are banged up. Their backup running back is game time decision. He hurt his shoulder last week, so we're not sure if he's going to play. But you have Kittle. You're going to have Ayuk back there. You're going to have Debo back there. And Purdy's a smart quarterback. They've got a good offensive line. This game's in San Francisco. That's why San Francisco is the favorite here. And the Chiefs have kind of been, playing with fire. Couple weeks, they probably should have lost. They should have lost to the Bengals, but a fortunate defensive pass interference late in that fourth quarter was able to put them into field goal territory for Buckner to get the game winner. But so I think this is the week. Not only Minnesota gets their first loss, Kansas City will get their first loss as well. And the 1972 Miami Dolphins can sip champagne as they will remain still the only undefeated team in NFL history. So Sunday Night Football, the big story of the week was Aaron got his boy. Aaron got his guy. And how will that affect this offense? Devontae Adams coming from the Raiders to the Jets. This is probably the biggest, no kidding, move of the NFL, maybe in history. You knew this was going to happen at some point in the season, but nonetheless, it happens. Ironically enough, he's been out with a hamstring injury, but he's healthy and he's ready to play. Devontae's ready to play this week. So will that help the Jets? My answer is slightly. I think Aaron Rodgers has lost a step or two. He has not looked good. The offensive line is terrible. He was on the run a good percentage of the game last week. He does not have that escapability that, Aaron Rodgers had in the past. So I like Steelers here. I think the Steelers at home are dangerous, especially defensively. TJ Watt is going to be all over Aaron Rodgers. And really, I don't know how much of a factor Adams is going to be. You got Adams, you got Wilson, and you've got Mike Williams there, who potentially will be moved after this deal. They do have threats, but when you don't have an offensive line, man, that makes it tough. So I think Pittsburgh comes out on top in this game. Monday night double feature, Ravens Buccaneers. Man, you got to like what you've seen from Tampa Bay, from Baker Mayfield this year. They played good football. They came here to Ford Field and they won. They gave Detroit their lone loss. So they played good football. But Baltimore's heating up. King Henry is just mowing down players. He's got his mojo back. Lamar doesn't have to do it all. And I think that's been the big factor as to why they haven't had success in the playoffs in previous years, because, it's 90% Lamar Jackson. It's not that way anymore. He can kind of sit back and he can be a quarterback. And Zay Flowers on my fantasy team has been outstanding. I think Baltimore's dangerous. They're getting hot. They go into Tampa and they come out on top. And the ESPN Plus game of the week. So if you don't have ESPN Plus and you want to see the Chargers and the Cardinals, you better sign up. Arizona missing Marvin Harrison, who got, man, it looked scary last week. He got hit really hard. Tried to get up, fell back down, concussed. He's out. That's huge. It's a big loss for Arizona. This is in Arizona, but I don't think they have, a home field advantage that teams worry about. When Detroit went into play, it was Ford Field West, but that seems to be the case anywhere the Lions play these days. But I think the Chargers offense, Herbert's going to get it going. Defensively, I think they have the upper hand, and I like the Chargers in that game. So those are my picks. Feel free to follow Reckless Speculation. This will be broadcast on the Reckless Speculation podcast and all the other socials. I'm sure at some point, maybe I'll get this thing on its own platform. But for the time being, we'll be broadcasting through Reckless Speculation. And as always, look for Reckless Speculation. These guys are great. I love them. Brandon, Raj, Robbie, those guys are they're a beacon of knowledge. So always look forward to shows with them. Hopefully we'll be able to get one together next week. Work schedules, vacations. It's been a little bit tough, but we'll get it together and get another Reckless show going. But hey, man, I want to thank everyone that watched. Leave your comments still. Again, this was pre-recorded, so it's not live, but still leave your comments. Like the show. Share it. That would be great. And again, look forward to doing some live shows. I'll probably do some live shows throughout the week moving forward. And I hope you enjoyed it. Leave some comments. Tell me what you liked about it. Tell me what you didn't like about it. I'm good for criticism because it makes me better. It makes the show better. And ultimately, that's what we want. when we're doing a show. So look forward to seeing you guys again next time. Go Lions.